Our community is, our land, our language, our way of being. It's all tied together. It's all interconnected. And, our language is the basis of who we are. And that has a strong connection to the land. We do have our ceremonies, and it's all interconnected. So we're always looking to have these all connected and have balance, to achieve balance in our community. So I like to think of, Saguli, when we talk about, our greetings to one another, Saguli, and it's more of like, it's a hello, but then it's like a greeting, and it's like our paths have crossed for a reason.
I see, from my perspective, a resurgence in Oneida's participation with land-based learning and sort of coming back to our original ways of knowing and being. And that makes me feel good because it's a lot of like community member initiatives, whether learning how to grow your own crops, to be able to have some food sovereignty, or doing, I see there's like food kitchens or food groups, or they're planting trees. Like a lot of really great initiatives are happening. So I feel like we're coming back to our original way and our original relationship with the land and the water.
We're having people that are learning to be in tune with the land again. They're gardening again. We're bringing ceremony back. We're reconnecting again. And I think the biggest part of that is we're reconnecting with our language, and that has a direct connection to our land and to Seguindizo. So it's nice to see that. It's nice to see that our people are picking those pieces up, because they've been ripped from us. They've been torn from us, and so it's nice to see that our youth are learning about our ways, and they're realizing the language is important.
We have first language speakers in our community, but they're elders, and our language is going extinct. And that was a direct result of the residential schools. So our language is very important to most people in this community. And we have a lot of second language learners who are pushing in this community to try and make sure that our language stays alive and that we can keep it going.
I am at the very beginning of my language journey, but it's all because of, well, thanks to COVID, there were so many Zoom classes and courses, and now it's being offered at Fanshawe, and it's being offered down here. And I just feel like there's more parents that are learning so that they can teach their kids.
My son goes to Standing Stone here on the reserve here, and they teach him Oneida language, so he comes home and teaches me. So that's really fun, because there's an introduction where you introduce yourself, what clan are you from, where you live, who's your mom and dad, and that's all like in an opening.
I don't know the language. I don't know the culture. And we could say that does stem back from the residential school system and them kind of putting a stop to that. Like, they did do a fairly good job for a while at making it really tough for us to find those resources. So kind of now I'm looking at least trying to reclaim it, is bringing in new media, the video, the podcasting, and connecting that with the elders and the knowledge keepers to try and give it like somewhere where people from my age and younger can go and look and have a set resource. So whether that be videos on the culture, whether that be kind of a full language podcast with elders.
We're Oneida, we're Haudenosaunee, and our way that we always lived was through agriculture. We had our longhouses and our communities that we stayed in, and we stayed in one spot for a long time. So we weren't like a nomadic tribe where you're chasing the food. we planted ourselves and created a community, and we had a strong agricultural background in our community. And, you know, everybody talks about the three sisters. So we have corn, beans, and squash. And we have a special way that we plant them together. And there's also, you know, so there's a story behind the three sisters and how they all work together to help each other grow. But it's tied to the land, and that's also tied to our ceremonies.
And our community is fortunate to have the Thames River beside us, where a lot of our community members go fishing, they do hunting, sustainable harvesting of the various trees and berries, you know, traditional harvesting of medicine, but making sure that we're not over depleting those resources. I think about like birch bark canoes, and like our community doesn't have a lot of birch bark, so we have to go out to different areas and expand, or, you know, collecting like gum or like, you know, sap for that even. Like there's certain places you want to hit that you want to go, but you don't want to tap into them every single year. You know, you want to let them recharge, rejuvenate. And those are the things that our community is really mindful of.
Like in my own family, my grandfather used to farm, and my father farmed, and he passed it down to my son. And my son is 11, and he knows how to plant we call it Indian corn. It's the white corn that we use. So that's been passed on through generations and generations. And we do have families here who that's their thing, is planting and gardening. And we have a lot of community members who feel strongly about having community gardens and the importance of bringing that back. And it's all interconnected with the land, our language, and our health, and our ceremonies.
Now we start to see a lot more conservation efforts coming kind of through even Chief and Council on our Environment group, with looking into preserving things like the monarchs and their kind of nesting areas, as well as like black ash and stuff like that are really important with traditional ceremonies and stuff down here. We've seen a lot more upkick kind of with our environment program, trying to really restore and make sure we keep the nature and lands healthy.
It is all connected, and I think a lot of people are beginning to relearn these things and beginning to acknowledge the importance of continuing this knowledge and making sure that it's all coming together, you know, taking care of the land with the ceremonies and keeping up with the language to understand, because our language is so descriptive. So there's a lot more to it than saying that's a corn, or, you know, there's so much more to it.
We didn't do a lot of like culturally significant like ceremonies in the home growing up. That is in part to the effects of colonization and residential school. And so that was a part of survival that was passed down. But now, thankfully, with, Indigenous people and, you know, my community, Oneida, like they're taking back the culture and the ways of knowing and taking up space. And it's making it feel empowering to know our practices. And so a lot of what we do is new.
Colonization has impacted every facet of our community, of our nation. The Oneida, or the people of the Standing Stone, historically lived in the upper New York State. This region that in southern Ontario was known as our beaver hunting territory. And so our community, our nation, controlled approximately 6 million acres of territory in the New York State, going down into Pennsylvania, and through and there was a whole bunch of treaties and land cessations, and it reduced that land to 32 acres. And at that point, our community basically were told either convert to Christianity or get out of here. And so our community's like, we're out of here, you know, sold their lands and purchased this land collectively.
Our people were self-sufficient. Our people, we didn't have your band office. We didn't have a housing program. We didn't have OW. We didn't have a police force even, for that matter. Something similar, I guess, but we didn't have hospitals even. There was no need for them. Because if somebody became ill, they were tended to, you know. If somebody was not following the rules, that was tended to as well. It's not like they were sent off to jail. If somebody needed a house, that was tended to as well. They would all contribute into building the longhouse. Even when we came here, we didn't live in longhouses anymore. When we came here from New York to this area, you know, there was still no housing department. There was no police force or health center or anything like that. Long-term care facility. We didn't stick our elders into you know, away from us. We took care of them. And we did that because we had a governance and we had a way of being. We had our language, and that holds, that our language holds a worldview and has protocols along with that. And in our ways, we helped each other. We took care of each other.
Colonization has impacted all of our Indigenous communities across Turtle Island. And it's been evident we don't speak our language. You know, not everybody knows our ceremonies. Some people believe that moving away from the community is better. You know, you're better off. And we're learning quickly that that whole mindset isn't necessary. You know, that was something that was ingrained in us, you know. Go to school, get a formal education. Don't speak your language. You know, go to university. Some people, they had to disenfranchise to go to university and get a degree. And I really feel that from COVID, you know, it opened our eyes to a lot of things. And I believe that COVID had a spirit. And I know it was tough on everybody, but there was a lot of lessons that were learned. And I feel like one of the big lessons was to stop and pause and reflect on what direction are we going in. And then the 215 children that were found in Kamloops, that also happened during COVID. And it really impacted me. And, you know, my father went to residential school, but he didn't want to talk about it. So it was a big impact to say, hey, you know, someone's finally listening to things that we already knew all along. And then now people want to hear from us. And so that's another, you know, like a deer in headlights, you know, oh, you want to hear from me? You want my opinion, or, you know, our voice matters now. And that's been a big thing that we've had to change our mindsets on.
We are coming back and trying to decolonize ourselves, but also trying to just live, because there's no way we're going to change all of it. We're used to going to the grocery store to buy stuff. We're used to going to the clothing store and to drive cars to get here. So we're never officially going to get away from all of it. But there is a big fight happening with the knowledge. And at least we'll have the knowledge of our ceremonies, all of our ways of living off the land, showing that it is possible to still live off the land. And yeah, and hopefully my biggest thing with decolonization is just everybody attempting to get on their healing journey, because we all have trauma and we all, we didn't ask for any of it, but we were dealt with it. So the only thing we can do is to heal ourselves to get through life. And that way our children don't pick up our anxieties, our everything that was passed down to us. We can heal ourselves so that our kids don't have to heal.
All those colonized ways that are supposed to be so much better for us, it's not happening. Those ways our people end up, addicted to drugs and alcohol. Our people end up being hurtful to each other. Our people end up being not so caring. Ends up making them be mean and cold-hearted, and that's not how our people are. So colonization really has a huge impact on our people. And again, one of the ways that we can start to decolonize is by picking up our language and really understanding who we are as Hungwe people. And I really take my hats off to the youth. There's so many youth out there that are just doing remarkable work, and not only in their where they're training for whatever sport or activity they're doing. We have people in hockey and lacrosse and cheerleading, and it's so nice to see them competing at the levels that they're competing. But they're also learning about who they are as Hungwe people. And it seems like a lot more people are prioritizing learning the language. So it's nice. We'll get there. We have to remember that this didn't happen to us overnight. And so it's not going to be fixed overnight. Even though we live in an instant world, the results can't be instant. Because they got to mean something. You can't just sit there and talk about how it used to be and how nice it is. You actually that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work that you got to do to get there. We all have to get to a point where we're healing so we can start doing that work. Because so many of our people, like I said, are not in a good space they have a lot of healing to do.
The relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous has been strained since the time of contact. And I think that we're more aware now that things happen because people were looking for our land. They were looking at our resources, and we got taken advantage of. When you look through history, right? Even the history, some of our great achievements or the positive things were taken out of the history books. Traditionally, I know that there's a lot of strained relationships between non-Indigenous and Indigenous people. And the reason is racism. The reason is a miseducation of the reality, And so I see in the future that we can work together. But we have to work together in a respectful way. And I think that's the key, not to have somebody come here and tell us what's what, because this is our community. We know what we need, and we know where we come from. So when we work together, I think there has to be a mutual respect. So, you look at our wampums, and we have different wampums, and one of them is the 2-row that you might see. It's purple and white alternating lines. And that's a long-standing treaty that we had where, you stay in your lane, we stay in our lane, and, we can be together, work together, but we have to respect one another. So bringing back the history of those teachings behind, with the wampums and understanding them and giving more opportunity for people to learn that is something that I think is really important. And the other thing is, also the newcomers that come to Canada. I've asked, what kind of education do you get on Indigenous people when you come here? And it's very minimal. And so, again, they don't know enough about us when they're coming here. And at the same time, we don't know enough about them either. So I think we need to have more of an education between all of our cultures so we can greater understand each other. And everybody that I meet who's from a different culture, we have more similarities than differences at the end of the day. So if we can all take the time to educate ourselves and each other, then, we can start working together and forming these great, relationships to help each other. So that's what I see for the future. I see that that's going to happen. I don't know if it will be, maybe when I'm an elder, maybe we'll start getting to that point. But I think that's something that we do need to do. And when we talk about, we say that we're hongwe, that means I'm a human being. So in essence, we're all hongwe. We're all human beings.
My hope is that for the future, that non-Indigenous people will really start to listen to Indigenous people. We're on our way there. It's happening. But because that is also the other side of decolonizing, where we need non-Indigenous people to also do some work to decolonize. Because we all have inherent biases and subconscious biases. What I hope non-Indigenous people start to realize is that Indigenous people can't stop talking about it because we don't get to stop living it. That doesn't get to stop being our experience. We don't get to just turn our phones off or turn the TV off or look away when these big events are happening, because they're happening to us in real time. And so my hope is that we get to a point where truth and reconciliation is more than just an inroad to funding or like an inroad to like checking a box off, that it really becomes something actionable and something tangible, and that non-Indigenous people can do that work to be able to hear the really hard truths and hear and accept what Indigenous people are saying when they say, this is what we need. Here are our barriers that we face, and we need help getting over those barriers. And that's the part of reconciliation, right? So it's not always is pretty, but I think it's a necessary thing that has to happen in order for us to start getting to that point of like equity in life. Yeah.
I'm optimistic about our relationship evolving, the non-Indigenous and Indigenous people. We're here and we're together. And I like to think, I know like racism and equality will never be something real, but I'm optimistic that my peers and my children's and my grandchildren's peers, they seem to be getting it. They seem to be understanding, and they seem to, oh, okay, I didn't know that happened to you. And it is a struggle because people do want to make things better. And we have some wonderful people that have been helping and are making things better. And what I like about the younger generation, like my grandchild's generation, is they don't tolerate that anymore. They don't tolerate the inequalities, and they don't tolerate people not being treated fair and all that stuff. They'll call you on it, and they don't tolerate that. Like, not all of them, but the ones that I've seen and heard, yeah, they don't tolerate that. So I think that's a good sign. Whereas when I was growing up, to be racially profiled or to be what I call invisible, that was just everyday things that I'm used to. I shouldn't be used to that. I take a different approach to it now. I used to be quiet about it, just let it happen. And then I remember being angry about it. But now it's not something that I get angry about anymore, because I'm starting to see a little bit of a difference, for one thing, and the best I can do is change myself and help others see how we can decolonize. So yeah, I take a bit of a different approach now. Instead of being mad or quiet about it, I'll use my voice, and you get far better results, I guess, being able to having conversations with people.
My hope and dream for the community is to get to a generation where they don't have to heal. And I want everybody to start their healing journey, no matter how scary it is, no matter, even if they don't want to go through that pain again, I would like them to go through it one last time just so that they can start. And then, because there's so much pain and there's so much trauma, and our community is full of so many amazing people that will never see their potential because they're stuck. And I just want everybody just to start their journey if they can. And they all have, and the thing is, they have amazing kids and they're amazing parents, but like I said, they're stuck, and now their kids are picking up their anxiety. And then it's not only holding back their potential, but now it's their kids. And yeah, that's what I would love to see for Oneida, is to see everybody on their healing journey. And just to have everybody whole and solid again. And have that confidence, because who knows where we'd be if everybody had that confidence and went after their dreams and not afraid to try something new.
For Indigenous History Month, Indigenous Peoples Day, I think it's really important that the non-Indigenous community get involved, especially on Solidarity Day, for new Canadians to educate themselves on Indigenous people. Too often, Canada does not educate people on Indigenous issues. I've met so many people who don't know a lot of the things that have happened, and that's no fault of their own. That's on our education system, and that's on Canada willingly ignoring what has happened, right? So I encourage all Canadians, all new Canadians to learn about Indigenous people, to learn our history, to learn our stories, and to come with an approach of open arms, and to meet our people, and just respect the land. That's so important. So yeah.